You've been trying to carry life on your back like it's all up to you. You wake up every morning running from one problem to another, thinking if you just work harder, you'll finally get ahead. But let me tell you something. Life was never designed for you to handle it all alone. You are not God, and trying to play His role is why you're breaking down. Some of you are carrying burdens that belong in God's hands, not yours. You're worrying about things you can't control, stressing over people you can't change, and beating yourself up over situations you can't fix. That's why you're so tired, so drained, so empty, because you're doing life the hard way, trying to live without the one who created life in the first place. You can't solve spiritual problems with natural solutions. You can work all the overtime, read every book, and call every friend, but if God's not in the middle of it, you'll keep hitting the same wall. You'll fix one thing and watch something else fall apart, because without God, you're building on shaky ground. When you seek God first, you stop carrying the weight alone. You realize you were never designed to fix everything. You were created to trust, to lean, to depend. The reason you're exhausted is because you're trying to fight battles that don't belong to you. When you start seeking Him, you understand that He's stronger than your struggle. You've been taught to hustle, to grind, to never quit, and that's fine. But what's missing is that you've got to lean on God while you grind. Otherwise, your hustle will become your idol, and your grind will grind you into the ground. God doesn't want you broke down and tired. He wants you trusting Him while you move forward. Some of y'all pray only after you've already worn yourself out. You try every option, every idea, every shortcut, and when none of it works, you finally say, God, help me. But why wait until, you're broken down before you invite Him in? Why not start with Him instead of finishing with Him? The truth is, you're one prayer away from peace, one decision away from rest, one surrender away from breakthrough. You keep waiting for strength to show up in you, but strength was never supposed to be found in you. It's found in Him. You don't have to keep going through life with your back breaking under the load. Life changes when you stop saying, I got this, and start saying, God's got this. Because as long as you think it's all on you, you'll never see what He can do. You've been living on your strength too long, and that's why you're running out. Seek Him first and watch Him lift what's been crushing you. Too many of us are treating God like the spare tire in the trunk. You only go looking for Him when the car of your life breaks down, when everything's falling apart, when you've got nowhere else to turn. But God is not supposed to be your last resort. He's supposed to be your first response. He's not the extra tire. He's the whole foundation. You can't keep building your life on temporary things. A career can change, money can dry up, people can walk out, health can shift in one phone call. If your foundation is built on those things, your life will collapse the moment the storm hits. But when God is your foundation, no matter how hard the wind blows, you'll still be standing. Think about a house. Nobody brags about the foundation. They brag about the paint, the furniture, the design, but it's the foundation that holds it all together. In the same way, your life may look good on the outside, but if God is not your foundation, everything you've built is fragile. One strong storm and it all comes crumbling down. When you seek God first, you're saying, God, I'm not trusting my future to luck, to chance, or to people. I'm building on you. And when you build on Him, you don't have to fear when storms come, because you already know storms don't break what's built on God. They only expose what wasn't built on Him in the first place. Some of you keep wondering why your plans fall apart so fast. It's because you've been treating God like a side option instead of the main thing. You can't sprinkle Him on top of your plans and expect it to work out. He's not seasoning, He's the recipe. Without Him, your life will always taste empty. God doesn't want to be your emergency call. He wants to be your daily guide. He doesn't want you to come to Him only when life hurts. He wants to be in the middle of your life when it's good, when it's steady, when it's normal, because that's how you build a foundation. You build before the storm comes. You can't afford to keep living life hoping you'll figure it out as you go, because storms are not an if, they're a when. trouble is guaranteed, but the question is, when the storm hits, will what you've built be able to stand? If it's not built on Him, you already know the answer. That's why the smartest move you'll ever make is putting Him first, not last, not later, not when I get older. First. Because if you don't build your life on God, you're setting yourself up for collapse. But when you make Him the foundation, you can face storms without fear because you know what you're standing on. Every day, people wake up chasing something, chasing money, chasing approval, chasing likes, chasing attention, chasing titles, chasing success, and then they wonder why. After getting it, they still feel empty inside. The truth is, you're seeking the wrong things first, because nothing you chase outside of God will ever fill the hole inside of you. Money is good, but it won't bring you joy. Success looks good, but it won't give you peace. People's approval feels good, but it won't make you whole. That's why you see people with everything on the outside, but still broken on the inside. Because when you seek those things before God, they can never satisfy. You've been taught all your life to get the bag, chase the dream, make it happen. But what nobody told you is that chasing those things without God will leave you frustrated, because even if you catch them, you'll realize they weren't enough. You'll always be thirsty, always be hungry, always searching. When you seek God first, everything changes. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop running after things and start walking in alignment. Because He said, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you." That means the things you're stressing to chase will start chasing you when you put Him first. Think about how much time and energy you've wasted running after what doesn't satisfy. All the sleepless nights, all the stress, all the anxiety. And for what? To get something that can't even give you peace. But when you seek God, you realize peace comes before progress, and fulfillment comes before success. You've been taught to measure your life by what you collect, but God measures your life by what you seek. If all you're seeking is material, you'll miss the eternal. And no matter how much you collect, it'll never be enough, because it wasn't designed to fill you. Only God was designed to do that. You can't keep chasing emptiness and expecting fulfillment. At some point, you have to admit that the things you thought would make you happy didn't work. That car, that job, that relationship, it didn't give you what you thought it would. And that's because you were seeking it first instead of Him. When you flip it around and seek Him first, you don't lose. You gain clarity, direction, provision, and peace. And the beautiful part is this: you still get blessings, but now they're in the right order, because blessings without God will crush you, but blessings with God will elevate you. If you really want to know where your faith is, don't just look at what you say. Look at what you prioritize. You can talk about trusting God all day, but if He never gets your time, your attention, or your focus, then your actions are speaking louder than your words. Faith shows up in your calendar, in your habits, and in your choices. Some of you spend hours scrolling on your phone but can't give God 5 minutes in prayer. You've got energy for gossip but none for gratitude. You've got more trust in your boss to provide a paycheck than in God to provide your breakthrough. What you consistently prioritize reveals who or what you really believe in. If you've got enough faith to set an alarm clock because you believe it'll wake you up, but no faith to pray and thank God for waking you up, something is out of order. You trust your car to start, your employer to pay you, your favorite restaurant to serve you food, but you hesitate to trust the God who keeps you alive. That's a priority problem. God doesn't want part-time loyalty. He doesn't want to be squeezed into the margins of your life when you're not too busy. He doesn't want to be a footnote at the bottom of your day. He wants to be first, because what you put first directs everything else in your life. The reason some of you feel scattered, confused, and overwhelmed is because your priorities are upside down. You're putting people before God, problems before prayer, and money before mission. And then you wonder why life doesn't feel steady. If God isn't first, everything else is going to feel off balance. When you prioritize God, He orders your steps. He aligns your path. He brings clarity in confusion. That's why the Bible says to acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will direct your path. Direction is connected to priority, and blessings flow where God is first. You don't need to wonder where your faith is. Your priorities already show it. If you're constantly too busy for God, you're saying He's not important enough. If you're constantly trusting people before Him, you're saying you believe in them more than you do in Him. It's not complicated. Your daily habits expose your heart. If you want to experience a shift in your life, shift your priorities. Put God before your schedule, your plans, your ideas, and your hustle. Because when you prioritize Him, He has a way of putting everything else in the right order. Some of you are walking around in circles because you're scared you don't know what comes next. You don't know what decision to make, what door to knock on, what move to take, and you've convinced yourself that your future is a mystery even to God. But God is not confused about your life. He's already written the story from beginning to end. Right now you might be stressing in chapter 7, but God already knows what chapter 20 looks like. You're crying about what's unclear, but He sees the whole picture. The reason you're anxious is because you're trying to control what was never yours to control. The future belongs to Him, not you. You may not know which job to take, which opportunity to accept, or which path to choose. But here's the truth. When you seek God first, He will direct you. You don't have to figure it all out. He will show you step by step. You may not see the whole staircase, but He will always reveal the next step. The enemy wants you paralyzed by confusion, second-guessing every move, doubting every decision, afraid of making a mistake. But confusion is not from God. He said He is not the author of confusion. If you're living in constant confusion, it means you're leaning on your own understanding instead of seeking Him first. Some of you think you've missed your chance, that you've made too many wrong turns, that you've wasted too much time, but God knows how to reroute your life. Just like a GPS recalculates when you take a wrong turn, God has already built in your mistakes, your delays, and your detours into His plan. He's not confused, even if you are. If you want to stop stressing about the future, start seeking God first in the present. Stop worrying about 5 years from now and start trusting Him for today. Because when you obey Him today, He'll prepare you for tomorrow. You don't need the whole map, you just need to stay connected to the guide. The problem is you want clarity without connection. You want answers without intimacy. But the answers are only revealed when you seek Him first. When you put your future in His hands, you can breathe again. Because no matter how uncertain life feels to you, it's already clear to Him. He knows the way, and He's never lost. You're worn out because you're fighting fights that were never meant to be yours. You're battling people who don't even matter, arguing with folks who don't pay your bills, trying to prove yourself to those who never cared about you. You're swinging at shadows, burning energy on things that don't move your destiny forward. Some of the stress in your life isn't even from real problems, it's from unnecessary battles. You're trying to clap back at people online, trying to defend yourself to people who misunderstood you, trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. That's not your job. That's why you're tired, because you're fighting the wrong fights. The Bible says the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. But the problem is, you keep picking up fights that belong to Him. You're swinging, you're shouting, you're exhausting yourself, and then wondering why you're drained. It's because you're standing in God's place trying to do His work. Some of you are praying for peace while holding on to a battle that doesn't belong to you. You're asking God for rest while carrying a war He already claimed. You can't have peace until you let Him fight for you. As long as you're in His lane, you'll be exhausted. When you seek God first, you learn how to choose your battles. Not everything deserves your response. Not every fight requires your energy. Some things you win by ignoring. Some battles you win by staying silent. Some fights you win by letting God handle it while you stay focused. The enemy is tricky. If he can't defeat you, he'll distract you. He'll send petty battles to pull you away from the real assignment. He'll tempt you to waste your strength on nonsense so you won't have energy for what actually matters. That's why seeking God first is key, because He'll show you what's worth your time and what's not. You don't need to clap back at every insult. You don't need to fix every rumor. You don't need to explain yourself to people who don't want to understand you. If you let God fight for you, your results will speak louder than your defense. Peace comes when you stop swinging at every battle and start trusting that God has the final say. When you release it to Him, you stop draining yourself on fights you can't win and start focusing on the assignment you were actually called to. There's a kind of peace you can't buy in a store, can't earn with a paycheck, and can't find in another person. That peace only comes from God. The world gives temporary relief, but God gives lasting peace. And that peace shows up when you stop putting everything else first and start putting Him first. Some of you are restless because you keep expecting peace to come from people. You think if that person apologizes, you'll have peace. If you get the job, you'll have peace. If the bills are paid, you'll have peace. But peace doesn't come from conditions. It comes from connection with God. When you put God first, you stop panicking over things you can't control. You stop letting every problem shake you. You stop running in circles trying to fix life by yourself. Because once He's first, you know no matter what happens, you're covered. That's peace the world can't give. Some of y'all are living in permanent anxiety because you're chasing control instead of chasing God. You think if you just hold everything together, it won't fall apart. But peace isn't found in control. Peace is found in surrender. Peace comes when you stop fighting to be in charge and let God take the lead. You'll notice that when you start prioritizing Him, your heart feels lighter. The same storms are blowing, but you're not shaken the same way. The same problems exist, but you're not panicking like before. That's not because the storm is weaker. It's because your peace is stronger. This world is loud. Bad news on every screen. Drama in every circle. Pressure in every direction. If you're not grounded in God, you'll lose your mind trying to keep up. That's why His peace is so vital. It anchors you when everything else is shifting. Peace doesn't mean the absence of trouble. It means the presence of God in the middle of trouble. When you put Him first, you'll learn how to be calm in chaos, steady in storms, and strong in weakness. That's what real peace looks like. Don't keep searching for peace in the wrong places. Don't keep thinking the next achievement, the next purchase, or the next person will finally make you feel settled. Seek God first, and peace will meet you where you are, not where you're trying to run. You've got dreams, you've got goals, you've got visions of where you want to go, and that's good. But hear me, those dreams require God's direction. Because what looks good to you might not be good for you. Some of the doors you've been begging to open could crush you if they actually opened. You think every opportunity is a blessing, but not all opportunities come from God. Some come as distractions. Some look shiny on the outside, but are rotten on the inside. Without God's direction, you can walk into something that looks like a blessing, but ends up being a burden. That's why you need to seek Him first. When you put Him at the center of your dreams, He gives you clarity. He shows you which doors to walk through and which ones to ignore. He protects you from saying yes to something that will derail your destiny. Some of y'all are frustrated because God closed a door you wanted open. You thought it was perfect, you prayed for it, you planned for it, but He didn't let it happen. That wasn't rejection, it was protection. He saw something you didn't see. When you seek Him, you start trusting that if it's for you, it won't miss you. And if it missed you, it wasn't for you. That's how God works. He aligns your dreams with His plan, so you don't waste years chasing something that was never yours in the first place. Your dreams are too heavy to carry without His guidance. They'll either crush you or confuse you. But with His direction, your dream becomes destiny. Because He doesn't just give dreams, He gives purpose. And purpose without Him is always empty. Sometimes your dream is too small compared to what God has for you. You're asking Him for something limited while He's planning something greater. That's why you can't just chase dreams. You have to seek God, because only He knows the full version of what you're capable of. When you align your dreams with His direction, you don't have to force it, fake it, or beg for it. What He planned for you will unfold in His time, and when it does, it'll be bigger than anything you dreamed by yourself. We live in a culture where everybody wants everything now. Fast food, fast internet, fast results. And that mindset has slipped into our faith. You think God is late because he didn't meet your deadline, but his timing is not your timing, and his timing is always better. Some of you are upset because you had a plan. By this age, you thought you'd be married. By this season, you thought you'd own the house. By this year, you thought you'd be further ahead. And because it hasn't happened yet, you feel like God forgot. But he didn't forget. He's just not rushing. God is not in a hurry. He's strategic. He doesn't just want you to have it. He wants you to be ready to keep it. Sometimes the delay is not punishment, it's preparation. He's developing your character to match your calling. You think you're waiting on God, but sometimes God is waiting on you, waiting for you to grow, to mature, to let go of what's holding you back. Because if he gave you what you're asking for too early, it would destroy you instead of bless you. When you seek him first, you stop stressing about deadlines and start trusting his design. You realize that just because it didn't happen when you wanted it to doesn't mean it won't happen. God is too faithful to let your story end in disappointment. The enemy wants you impatient, so you'll quit before the blessing shows up. He wants you to settle for less because waiting feels too hard. But don't mistake delay for denial. God's timing may feel slow, but it's always right on schedule. Think about it. How many times did you want something fast, only to later realize waiting was better? You may not understand it in the moment, but when his plan unfolds, you'll see why the wait was necessary. When you stop forcing your deadlines on God, you'll find freedom, because his timing is not late, it's perfect. And when the moment arrives, it will come together so smoothly that you'll know only he could have orchestrated it. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to kill your joy. You look at somebody else's highlight reel and assume their life is better than yours. You see their blessing and feel like God skipped you. But comparison blinds you to what God is already doing in your life. Some of y'all are jealous of somebody's chapter 15 while you're still on chapter 3. You don't know the battles they fought to get there. You don't know the pain behind the smile. You don't know the nights they cried when nobody was watching. Stop comparing your behind the scenes to somebody else's front stage. When you live in comparison, you'll always feel behind. You'll never feel enough, because there's always somebody with more money, more followers, more opportunities, and if you're chasing them, you'll never have peace. Seeking God first pulls you out of that trap. It reminds you that your life has its own timeline, its own assignment, its own calling. What God has for them doesn't take away from what he has for you. He's big enough to bless everybody without running out. Comparison is a distraction. It makes you chase what doesn't belong to you and doubt what God has given you. The enemy loves to use comparison because it makes you forget your own lane. But when you seek God, he reminds you of who you are. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? You start asking, God, what do you want me to do with what I have? And that shift changes everything, because gratitude kills comparison, and gratitude grows when you put God first. Every blessing has a burden attached. You may be jealous of their blessing without realizing you couldn't carry their burden. That's why God gave you yours. He custom-made your life to fit you. When you seek him first, you stop competing and start completing your assignment. Stop comparing and start seeking, because when your eyes are on God, you won't have time to be jealous of somebody else's story. You'll be too busy walking in your own. Everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants to be celebrated. We live in a world where people will do anything for attention, post anything, say anything, wear anything, just to be seen. But the way up in God's kingdom is the opposite. The way up is down. The ones who humble themselves are the ones God elevates. Humility doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you don't have confidence. It means you recognize that your gifts, your success, your opportunities, they don't come from you. They come from God. And when you understand that, you stop needing to promote yourself because you know God will do it in His time. The reason some people never reach their full potential is because they keep trying to force their own elevation. They'll cut corners, step on people, lie, cheat, and compromise just to get ahead. And maybe they rise for a moment, but it doesn't last. Because anything you build without humility, pride will eventually tear down. When you seek God first, you understand that true promotion doesn't come from people. It doesn't come from connections, from bosses, or from platforms. Promotion comes from God, and when He lifts you up, nobody can push you down. Humility protects you from destruction. Pride will have you thinking you can't fail, but humility reminds you that without God, you can fall at any moment. Pride will make you forget the one who blessed you, but humility keeps you grounded, grateful, and aware that every good thing comes from Him. Some of y'all are frustrated because you feel overlooked. You think nobody sees you, nobody recognizes your effort, nobody values your work. But let me tell you, when you humble yourself and keep seeking God, He sees you, and His recognition is worth more than the applause of 1,000 people. The higher God takes you, the deeper your humility must be, because success without humility is dangerous. It'll destroy you from the inside out. But when you stay humble, God can trust you with more because He knows you'll give Him the glory. So stop chasing validation and start chasing God. Stop trying to put yourself on a pedestal and let God elevate you in His time. Because when He lifts you up, the platform will be bigger, the opportunity will be stronger, and the blessing will last longer than anything you could have forced on your own. Some of y'all are losing sleep over bills, worried about how the rent's going to get paid, stressing about tuition, wondering how the groceries are going to stretch. You're carrying financial pressure that feels like it's crushing you. But here's the truth. Provision follows seeking God. He feeds the birds of the air and clothes the lilies of the field. They don't clock in, they don't stress, they don't sit up at night worrying, and yet He takes care of them. Don't you think He'll take care of you, His child, whom He created in His own image? The problem is you're chasing provision instead of chasing the provider. You think if you just work harder, grind longer, and hustle more, you'll finally make ends meet. But no matter how hard you work, you can't out-hustle your own humanity. Without God's hand on it, it will never be enough. When you seek Him first, He provides in ways you didn't even see coming. He'll open doors you didn't knock on. He'll send opportunities you weren't qualified for. He'll place resources in your path that no budget could explain. That's what happens when you chase the giver instead of the gift. Some of y'all are begging for scraps when you serve the God who owns it all. You're panicking over pennies while He controls the universe. But when you prioritize Him, He shifts your perspective. You stop worrying about lack and start walking in trust. Provision is not always about money. Sometimes His provision shows up as favor, as connections, as wisdom, as ideas that lead to income. You keep expecting Him to hand you a check, but sometimes He gives you strategy. And when you follow it, you see His provision unfold. Stress leaves when you remember this truth. God is your source. Jobs are channels. People are channels. Opportunities are channels. But God is the source. If one channel closes, the source will open another. That's why you seek Him first, because He's the one who never runs dry. So stop chasing the bag harder than you chase God. Stop stressing about bills more than you pray about them. Seek Him, and the provision will come, not just enough to survive, but enough to show that your God is a provider who never fails. It's easy to pray when life is falling apart, when the doctor gives a bad report, when the bills are stacked, when the relationship is broken. That's when everybody suddenly remembers how to pray. But God doesn't just want to hear from you in crisis. He wants to walk with you daily. If the only time you talk to God is when you're in trouble, you're missing the point. He's not supposed to be your emergency contact. He's supposed to be your Father. He wants relationship, not just rescue missions. Some of y'all treat God like a fire extinguisher, break glass in case of emergency. But He doesn't want to just put out your fires. He wants to stop the sparks before they ever turn into flames. And that only happens when you seek Him before the crisis, not just after. When you build a daily relationship with Him, you're prepared when the storm hits. You don't have to scramble, panic, or beg because you've already been walking with Him. You've already built the foundation. That daily connection gives you strength when trouble comes. If the only time you show up for God is when you need something, you're treating Him like a vending machine, not a savior. He's not here to be used. He's here to be sought. And when you make Him a habit, not just a backup, you'll find He's already moving before you even ask. Think about it. If you only called your family when you were in trouble, that relationship would be shallow. God wants more than shallow. He wants you to share your wins, your gratitude, your daily thoughts, not just your emergencies. Seeking Him in crisis will get you through, but seeking Him daily will change your whole life. Because when you walk with Him consistently, crisis won't shake you the same way. You'll already know who's in control. So don't just pray when life hurts. Pray when life is good. Don't just seek Him when you're broken. Seek Him when you're blessed. Because a consistent relationship with Him will carry you further than crisis prayers ever could. God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for consistency. Too many people think He only blesses those who never make mistakes. But that's not true. He blesses those who keep showing up, those who keep seeking Him day after day, even when they're tired, even when they don't feel like it. Some of y'all are on and off with God like a bad relationship. One week you're praying, the next week you've disappeared. 1 month you're reading your Bible, the next month it's collecting dust. And then you wonder why you feel stuck. It's because inconsistency keeps you unstable. God honors the ones who are diligent. Diligence means you show up even when it's not convenient. You pray even when you're busy. You worship even when you're tired. You obey even when it's hard. That's the kind of consistency God rewards. You don't build strength in the gym by working out once a month. You build it by showing up regularly. The same is true with your faith. You can't expect spiritual growth if you're only seeking God on Sundays. Daily consistency builds strength. The enemy wants you to believe your little efforts don't matter. He'll whisper, one prayer won't change anything. One verse won't make a difference. But that's a lie. Every small act of consistency compounds over time, and before you know it, your faith is stronger, your peace is deeper, and your life is more aligned. Consistency shows God you're serious. It shows Him you're not just here for convenience, you're here for commitment. And when you commit to Him daily, He commits to showing Himself faithful in your life. Stop waiting for perfect conditions to seek Him. You'll never feel ready. Just start. Show up messy. Show up tired. Show up unsure. God honors the effort, not just the outcome. When you build consistency, blessings begin to flow steadily. Because God said He rewards those who diligently seek Him, not casually, not occasionally, but diligently. Life can get foggy. You've got decisions pulling you in different directions, voices speaking over your life, options that all look good but lead different ways. Confusion can make you freeze. But seeking God first clears the fog. He brings clarity that no amount of advice, money, or success can buy. Some of you are living in constant doubt, unsure of who's really for you, unsure of what path to take, unsure of whether you're on the right track. That confusion doesn't come from God. He's not the author of confusion. He's the author of clarity. When you seek Him first, He sharpens your vision. Suddenly, what looked complicated starts making sense. What felt overwhelming starts becoming simple. You realize not every open door is from Him, and not every voice deserves your attention. The reason some of y'all keep making the same mistakes is because you're moving without clarity. You're rushing decisions without seeking God. And when you do that, you end up in situations that drain you instead of build you. God's clarity is not always a loud voice. It's often a quiet peace. It's that still, small confirmation in your spirit that says, this is the way. And when you learn to hear it, you stop chasing opinions and start trusting His direction. Seeking him first filters out the noise, because the world is loud, but his voice cuts through the chaos. And when you have his clarity, you don't need everyone else's approval. You move with confidence because you know you've got his green light. Some of y'all are praying for clarity, but refusing to sit still long enough to hear it. Clarity doesn't come in the rush. It comes in the quiet. That's why seeking him has to come first, before the busyness, before the distractions. When you seek him for clarity, you stop living in fear of making the wrong move. Because even if you take a step you don't fully understand, you trust that he'll redirect you if needed. That's what his guidance does. At the core of it all, this is the key. Seek God first. Not second, not when you're out of options, not when you've tried everything else. First, because when he's first, everything else begins to line up. You've been chasing blessings, but blessings flow when you chase him. You've been stressing about provision, but provision comes when you chase him. You've been worried about relationships, but the right ones fall into place when you chase him. Everything else follows when he's first. Some of y'all are exhausted because you're chasing what you were never meant to chase. You're running after what's supposed to be added. He said all these things will be added unto you, but only after you seek him first. You're wasting energy on the added while ignoring the first. When you get the order wrong, life feels wrong. But when you put him in his rightful place, order is restored. You'll notice doors opening without force, opportunities appearing without begging, blessings arriving without chasing. Seeking God first is not just about religion, it's about survival. Because without him, everything else eventually crumbles. But with him, even when things don't look perfect, you'll still have peace, provision, and direction. This is not about perfection. It's about priority. It's about making a decision every day to put him at the top of the list. Before the phone, before the stress, before the plans, seek him. And when you do, you'll see everything else fall into place. The world will keep telling you to chase money, to chase success, to chase fame, but all of that is empty without him. The promise is clear. Seek him first, and everything else will be added. That's motivation. That's his word. So stop stressing about how it's all going to work out. Seek him and let him take care of the rest. Because when he's first, everything else finds its place.